Hi everybody, how's it going? It's your boy, it is Snake O'Martin, and I'm back with another video for you. Today, we are going to be talking all things horror, because it is the month of October. It is the horror-filled month. You will be seeing all sorts of horrors and festivities wherever you are in the world, unless you're in a place where Halloween doesn't exist. However, it does exist here, so I will be talking all about my favourite horror games. Now, I've played a lot of horror games, going all the way back to PS1, I would say, was my first foray into the horror games. However, they weren't really horror games, to be honest with you. I'm just going to talk very briefly about one game that's not really a horror game at all. It is Rugrats. Rugrats Search for Reptar on the PS1. Why is this game on this list? Let me tell you. There is one level as a little boy that I hated. It was so scary. You play as Tommy Pickles and you have to run around the house at night with a torch. Now, let me explain. It's dark. It's got creepy music. I'm like 5 years old, maybe 6, give or take. You've heard my story about Nightmare Buzz and Toy Story. This is like that on jet fuel. Around the house are ghosts. 2D, basically paper cutouts of ghosts, and you have to hit them with your torch, and it does this really creepy noise. The music's creepy. It was the scariest game I've ever played at the time. I hated it. It was so scary. I had to do the level, I think, to finish the game as well. But thankfully, I grew a bit older, to about 8 years old. I felt brave enough to finally do the level. And I finally finished the game. I got to do the last level as Reptar. It was a glorious day. But this was the first scary game I think I ever played, apart from that one level in that boss fight of Toy Story. So this is like an honourable mention, if anything. Now let's talk about actual horror games. So some of my very, very favourites, some of those ones that made me genuinely terrified. One that comes to mind, or technically two, are the Dead Space games. Dead Space 1 and Dead Space 2, I think it's this way around, are so scary. I remember getting this game when I was younger. And when did it come out? It came out in around 2008, probably. That's the latest date I can see on this. About 2008. So I would have been 14 years younger, so about 18. And it was the scariest thing ever.
Everybody relax.
What was that? Did you hear that?
Not sure.
What the hell? I don't know. Something's in the room with us.
I loved this game, but I also hated this game. The necromorphs were horrific. They were so scary. The way that they would scuttle towards you was always mind-chilling, okay? The way that the sound design is in this game, my friend always tells me this fact, but you could actually play this game if you're blind, because the sound design is so good that you can get through it by pure sound alone. I don't know how that's a thing. I don't know if it's completely true, but that is something that my friend always tells me. Shout out to my mate Sutton. This game is one of the scariest. You go around the USG Ishimura, I believe, and you've got to take down xenomorphs. The one thing, necromorphs. The one thing that I love about this game as well is that you play as essentially just anybody. Like, he's not superhuman. He isn't really tough. He's just a mechanic, essentially, that's really annoyed with the fact that he's in this situation. I don't think he speaks in this one, and it's such a great game. The story is so good around everything that's happening. It's got some amazing performances in it, from some really great actors, and this was one of the scariest games. Until they released Dead Space 2 a few years later.
You gotta trust me, okay? Listen, you're in terrible danger.
This game somehow made this, to me, not to everybody, to me, feel like a walk in the park, okay? This game is horrific. The ideas that these insane people at Visceral Games at the time thought up were absolutely barbaric and shouldn't be on a disc. But here they are on a disc in my hand. I loved it. It was the best, but barely could play it. I had to have moments to breathe. It was that bad. I remember specifically going into a nursery on this game, and it was the scariest thing ever. There was tiny little balls that would move. There were weird necromorph babies. It was horrific. And yeah, one of the coolest weapons ever, the plasma cutter, is in this game, and it did make me feel a lot safer. However, it didn't make me feel that much safer because there were so many necromorphs in this game. They need to remake this one. I know they've remade this, and it's just actually become available on PS Plus this month, which is, please jump on it. I haven't played it yet, the remake. I can't speak of number 3 because I know it changed a lot. It went a lot more actiony. But these two specifically are top tier games. You have to play them if you are a horror fan. Next up, we're going to go back a little bit further now. One of my favourite games that I have pretty sure I've talked about already. A horror game that has not been replicated since the original on the PS1. Dino Crisis. This game is amazing, okay? If you liked the original Resident Evil 1, 2, 3 Nemesis on the PS1, this is a must play if you're a horror fan. I love this game. The puzzles in it are very Resident Evil-esque, but they're a lot more kind of word-based puzzles. The atmosphere that this game creates is so good. You're in this isolated area in the middle of nowhere. You've got a little team investigating this essentially a weird experiment that's gone wrong, and for some reason there are dinosaurs. I think everybody should experience this game. If you can get past the old school kind of tank controls and everything, it's amazing. I don't think horror games are as good a lot of the time as they could do back then. I think the limitations of PS1 games and older titles, I think it got a lot out of the creators having these technical limitations, because they really had to use different ways to get around things to get this to be really scary, really kind of atmospheric. And the PS1 horror scene is amazing for that. Silent Hill 2. Please ignore my absolutely battered version of this on the PS2. What a game this is, okay? It expands on everything the first one did. And don't get me wrong, I'm actually playing the first one at the minute. It's amazing as well. It has those kind of old school PS1 limitations I discussed with Dino Crisis, but this game expands on it. The story on this game is really chilling. It's haunting, in fact. Silent Hill 2 is a game that, even though I played it for the first time about 4 years ago, it still sticks with me. Like, the ideas of the game, the thoughts that it kind of provokes, the eeriness, the chillingness, the sound design on this game as well is truly amazing. I actually think that sound is so important with horror. It's something I'm actually experiencing at the minute with Silent Hill 1, playing that through just before I play this again for the second time. It's amazing what Team Silent managed to do with older hardware. I know I keep talking about it, and games these days, they have so much ability to kind of really push the boat down, and I'm excited to see what Bloober Team do with the remake. But if you've never played Silent Hill 2, you absolutely must experience the story, experience the horror, the chills, because it is incredible. Alien Isolation. Alien Isolation is getting a sequel finally. That game, I honestly think, is one of the scariest games ever. I don't think there's many games that are as good as the fear of having a xenomorph chase after you as what it does in Alien Isolation. Xenomorph's the perfect organism, in my opinion. Sleek, sexy, hot, very delightful, very demure. Having one of them chase after you is genuinely terrifying. Okay, there's a moment in that game, I will never forget it because I see it quite a lot in my clip montages, but there's a bit where you have to go into a vent, and you're in the vent, the alien is in the vent with you. There's only one alien as well. You know it's in that vent, and you've got your motion tracker, and you can just see that green dot, beep, 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 and that beep. Oh my gosh, the beep. It is such a good game. It is, I would say, timeless. I really think it's timeless. Has it got issues? Yes. A lot of these games do have issues, whether they're a little bit too long, whether they kind of have weird middle bits, whatever. Yes, it's a little bit too long, I would say. It kind of overstays its welcome a little bit towards the end, but it doesn't take away from the fact that it is an absolute masterpiece of horror. One game I would like to discuss, it's very strange, but this game is called Oxide Room 104 by WildSphere. Oh my god, I actually have to do it again.
Bath salts, toilet paper, electric socket, where's my sneakers? Bath salts, toilet paper, electric socket, where's my sneakers? Their roulette is blocked.
I have to tell you to play this game. It is so strange. It is so weird. It is so bizarre. It is so funny. I know I shouldn't be saying that about a horror game, but it is funny because there's only maybe 1 or 2 voice actors for the whole game, and there's quite a few characters. It is quite gory, it's quite grotesque, it's kind of like that shocking horror, especially at times, it's pretty disgusting. But the story is absolutely insane. I kind of love this game in a weird way. I have a weird relationship with it. It's not the greatest game in the world. I'm sure the devs might watch this and say that they agree. It's not on the same level as a Dead Space or a Silent Hill, but they don't have the budget, okay? They do not have the budget. But they have heart and they have soul, and they put that into this game tenfold. They're actually making a sequel. Oxide Room 104 is actually, the sequel is called Oxide Room 208. I don't know how they're making a sequel to this game, but they are. But if you do buy a copy of this brand new, they will plant 1 tree as well. So please go out and do that if you do want to experience it. This is a game of all time.
Mia, oh thank God I found you. It's me, it's Ethan.
Ethan? Ethan?
Resident Evil is an amazing, obviously timeless horror games. They are timeless. There's so many of them. Pick any of the mainline ones, you're going to have a good time. But if I have to pick one Resident Evil game that is the most scary, scarier than the lot of them, it has to be Resident Evil 7 Biohazard, which is a cool one because they actually use the Japanese title in the name. I don't know if they did that backwards, so because in Japan it's called Biohazard. I don't know if they called it Biohazard Resident Evil, like Biohazard 7 Resident Evil. I would love it if they did, but I really don't know. I mean, Resident Evil is a juggernaut of an IP. They've done movies, they've done TV shows, not so good, but they've done everything I think they can do with the Resident Evil license. I cannot wait for another one. Give me Resident Evil 9 now. Please, Capcom, pump it into my veins. I love Village. This game is insane. It's so good. They really do go back to the horror roots that they had in the originals. This game really takes it back and takes it up a notch. This game is probably one of the more scary games I think I've ever played. I would actually put this as the scariest game I've ever played in my entire life, purely because of how you could play this game. You could play this game in VR. I think exclusive to the PSVR. I don't know if they've modded it on PC now or something to work, but Resident Evil 7 in VR, while it wasn't the best looking VR game, it was enough to trick your mind into thinking that you were there. And it is horrific. You, again, play as someone who is very normal. You're not your boulder punching Chris Redfield. You're not your super soldier Leon. You are just Ethan Winters. You are a guy who is basically looking for his betrothed, his loved one. Where is she? We track her down to, I believe, Louisiana. and we meet the Baker family. It is so scary. It goes in sections where you can deal with each member of the family respectively. So there's a Jack section, you've got your Marguerite section, etc. And it's just really well done. This game is so well done. I think it gets a bit of hate sometimes because of the first person aspect. I think a lot of Resident Evil fans weren't happy that it went first person. I loved it. I just took it as face value. But this was the first one I finished on my own. Yeah, VR horrific. It's genuinely terrifying. I actually truthfully think I had a little bit of PTSD from playing this game. It was so horrific. I'll never forget the time where I was playing it in VR around my friend's house. And if you've never played VR, please give it a go. Not this game in VR, but just give it a go. Your brain's completely tricked. You're not in the space you're in. Like, I'm not in this room. I'm in Louisiana. I'm in this horrific house that stinks. And if someone touches you in the real world, I don't know what it does, but it jogs your brain and it's like, what is going on, right? And there's a moment, and I was playing it around my friend's house. My friends were watching, and one of them thought it'd be funny to grab me on the leg while I was dealing with the horrors of Resident Evil 7. And I won't lie, I think I threatened to rip off his leg, my friend. You know who you are if you watch this video. You know. I've never felt such fear. I think there was a chance I might have wet myself. Like, there was a good chance of accidental all going on. But it didn't, thankfully, it didn't happen. But Resident Evil 7 is probably the scariest game I've ever played. Those are some of my favourite horror games. What are some of yours? I'd love to hear it in the comments below. Do you have any favourite horror memories? Don't forget to hit that subscribe if you are watching and you've enjoyed what you've watched. Hit the bell as well so you can find your way back. We stream every Sunday, Monday and Wednesday on Twitch and on YouTube, so check us out there. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I hope you've enjoyed. I've had a lovely time talking about some of my favourite games. And yes, I will see you next time. Take care. To the bloody loo.